to talk to you a little bit about anonymity. Until very recently, I was an anonymous blogger and Twitter, Facebook, things like that. And so people think, I've just got a book out, which is available for sale around the side. Thank you. That's getting quite quick, wasn't it? 30 seconds. People think I've been anonymous for about 3 years, which is how long it's taken me to be doing the blog and getting the book and so on and so forth. In fact, I've been anonymous for an awful lot longer than that. For about 18 years or so, I've been a second-class citizen. I've been a shade, I've been a shadow. I've been the kind of person that you wouldn't notice in a room like this. I'll be sat at the back by the fire exit where I can get out quickest more than everyone else. If you're being melodramatic about it, you'd say I've been an underclass, because I'm a tabloid newspaper reporter. And while that is a job with enormous privilege, it's also an enormous pain in the arse. The things that you take for granted are the things that I've never had. I don't have a right to have an opinion. For 18 years, since I was 18 years old, do the maths, I haven't been able to express an opinion about anything that I've seen or done or anyone that I've spoken to. As part of my work, I have to put all my opinion to one side and just report the facts. Despite what you may think about tabloid newspaper reporters, in general, standard, ordinary news reporting, what you think about David Cameron, whether you like him, whether you love him, doesn't go into the story that you're writing about him. I don't have access to justice at all. I've got a friend who was held hostage at gunpoint when she knocked on somebody's door. When she went to the police about it afterwards, they said, "You're a journalist." I've got a friend who was picked up by the throat and pinned to the bonnet of a car for knocking on somebody's door. When she went to the police about it, they said, "You're a journalist." I've got another friend who knocked on someone's door, was asked to leave, said fine, turned away, was walking away from the door, and then the person that he'd been speaking to was still quite angry with him, pushed him from behind, knocked him down, and he lost every single tooth in his head. Went to the police, went to the CPS, no action. That's what happens when you're a journalist. Don't have general respect. If I meet someone in a pub, and they say, "What do you do for a living?" and I say, "Well, I'm a journalist," what do you think they say to me? Nothing nice at all. It's a bit like being a priest, and every person you meet presumes you're a paedophile before you even open your mouth. It's a bit like being a banker and being told that you're a child-abusing banker who's got more in common with cockroaches than anything else on earth. I don't have any employment rights, particularly at the moment. Well, some do and some don't, but there are fewer and fewer staff reporters on newspapers these days. They rely, because of reduced budgets, on more and more freelancers, and that means that they will say, "Come into work at 5 o'clock in the morning, we'll send you to Hull on a doorstep, we'll work you until about 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, and if you don't fuck up too badly, you can come in again tomorrow." If you want to argue with your boss, if you want to have a bit of a spat, if you want to make a moral stand, you just won't be coming back. I don't have the employment rights that you guys probably do. I don't have equality in the same way. At work, if you're a boy reporter, you're more likely to be dressed up as a strange cartoon animal and sent out to monster the Big Brother house. If you're a girl reporter, you're more likely to be paired up with a male photographer and pretend to be a couple and infiltrate somewhere. It's one of the few jobs where you have a slightly better time if you're a girl, because you don't have to dress up as cartoon characters. Or as a colleague of mine a couple of years ago had to dress up as the Mirror Chicken and chase David Cameron around the countryside. They only ever ask the boys to do that. I don't mind it, but the boys do. But if you're a girl, there are some things that are expected of you as well. There was one day, years ago now, a reporter who no longer works in the game, who's a bit of a dinosaur, expected me to go for dinner with someone and try and get a story out of them, which is fine, I do that all the time. But he said, "Make him think that you're going to have sex with him." And I said, "No, I'll go for dinner with him, I'll chat to him, I'll try and get it out of him, but I'm not going to put it on the line for him, I'm not going to give him the farm, no." And he said, "But you're a girl, that's your job on a tabloid." I don't have an identity of my own. As Susie Boniface, newspaper reporter, There is nothing particularly special or different about me. Put aside what you think about journalists. You may presume they're like the TV broadcasters and presenters or columnists. They're the ones that get the big name. Put that to one side. It's everybody else who work on newspapers. The newspaper reporters, the sub-editors, the photographers, the people that are faceless and nameless and not known at all, who do all the hard work, and they don't have an identity of their own. But the story comes first, before everything else. The reader is what comes second. And the journalist, no one cares where you come at all. That doesn't really happen in many other walks of life. But I do gain things as a result of all this as well. It's not all nothing. I get access to lots and lots of things. I get to ring up the Prime Minister occasionally and bollock him, which is fun. I get to go on the guest list. I get to sit in the front row. I get to see and witness and do and things that are very interesting. I get to meet fantastic people. I get all the best stories. If I were to sit in a pub and hold forth, I would be able to hold that pub's attention for at least 30 seconds, probably until the swearing kicked in. People want to know what I've got to say. People always want to know what David Beckham's really like and what happened on that story last week and how many of you were actually phone hacking. People always want to know all the things that go on around a newspaper and the stories that they don't get to hear about. Popularity is a difficult one. I wouldn't say I'm popular, but journalists, well, they're nothing but popular. They're the kind of people that other people seek out and want to know the opinion of. They still dislike them, but they still think they're paedophile abusing, bankers. But they still want to know what it is that you know and pick your brains. I haven't had to buy my own drink since I was 18 years old. Other people have always bought my drink. Businesses have bought my drink. I've experimented with Jägermeister at Tokyo at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know what kind of time zone. And I've stolen soap from every major hotel chain on Earth. If any of them are here tonight, you're never going to get it back. I'm more likely to be prosecuted than any of you at all. I've been stopped by police for sitting in my car in a road because I was within 100 yards of a school, and the policeman stopped me and said, "Are you a paedophile?" "Do I look like a paedophile?" I said to her. "Oh, I don't know," she said. In this country, in the past year, more journalists have been arrested than in Iran. The issue of whether or not journalists should or shouldn't have been arrested for phone hacking has kind of been resolved because it's very difficult not to get arrested these days. But if you do get arrested, it's a fantastic story. So it's not all bad. All journalists are anonymous. There is nothing particularly different about what I do on my blog that is any different to what normal journalists do. Although I've had my name on stories since I was 18 years old, no one knows anything much about me as a human being, and I couldn't do my job if I was known in the same way as a TV presenter or someone who reads the news out. Even though your name's go on your work, you're still not really known about, because without that anonymity, I can't sit in a pub or in a room like this and very quietly overhear the conversation next to me. I can't interview someone without being interviewed back in return. And I certainly couldn't do a door knock on someone who's just lost a relative and be exactly what they need to hear and to speak to at exactly that particular moment in their life in order to get across the doorstep and speak to them and tell the world their story. Also, I wouldn't be able to rifle through a future Prime Minister's dustbins if I wasn't anonymous. This is the kind of thing that probably wouldn't appear in the newspapers these days because the current climate has changed things. However, in 2006, the world was a different place. Or was it 2005? 2005. David Cameron was the shadow leader of the opposition, and if you remember, he was talking an awful lot about wind turbines and green issues and how everyone needs to be more environmental. And I had the very bad idea one day that we should check to see if he was recycling. The first thing we did was talk to a lawyer. The second thing we did was talk to the Press Complaints Commission. And they both said, firstly, it was in the public interest, and secondly, no, you can't go around nicking anybody's bins. Which is fair enough, you can't. If the bins are on somebody's property, they belong to them. If the bins have been seized by the council, they belong to the council. But while the bins are on the pavement, it's technically littering. And you're solving a problem. So we went round to David Cameron's house one day, on bin day, thinking the dustman would just pick it up and take it out and put it in the bin and we'd be screwed. And no, the dustman came out, picked up the bins, put them on the pavement, and went round the corner. And the dust lorry was a long way away. So we took the bins around the corner, had a little look, took some photographs, as you can see, and we checked to see if he was recycling in the way that he was telling the rest of the country they should be doing. He wasn't, as you can expect. All the plastic and paper was in the wrong bag, or the landfill stuff was in the wrong bag. That's because the nanny was doing it. She's Filipino, didn't know what she was up to. And inadvertently, unfortunately, in one of those bags was some nappies. This was not good news for anybody. I rang the office and said, read out the list of stuff that was in the bag. Oh, there's some nappies. And they said, right, stay there a minute. And they came back on the phone and said, right, we need to go in on the nappies. What? The what? And apparently they said, well, look, our readers are mums and parents. The issue, the fact of using disposable nappies, none of them have ever rotted. They go into landfill. They take at least 500 years to disappear. If anybody in this room was raised on on disposable nappies, they're all still there in landfill somewhere. It's a really big issue. It's a big environmental issue. So write the story about his recycling, but mention the nappies. There we go. The next day, his spin doctor, who was a chap called Mr. Andy Coulson, accused me of sharp practice, with beautiful irony. And he managed to squash the story flat for the other journalists to follow it up, because he said I had stolen, quote unquote, the Cameron's disabled child's nappies. I hadn't stolen anything, because I took them back. And they were all the children's nappies, but not that this really matters. But the point is, I could not have gone down the road and picked up those bags had I not been anonymous myself. The second point is that Cameron and Coulson couldn't have smeared me and squashed my story had I not been anonymous. If I had been better known, if I'd been a columnist, if I'd been a face or a name in some way, they would have had to take me slightly more seriously. The third thing that they couldn't have done is that as a result of this story, David Cameron took down his wind turbine and stopped banging on about environmental issues. Somehow or another, we not only exposed some hypocrisy, we seem to have cured it, purely by accident, and with some nappies, which was difficult. Cheryl Tweedy. This is the other thing you can't do if you're anonymous. Tabloid journalism tells you a lot about human beings, and what's in the public interest as well as what the public are interested in. And sometimes exactly the same thing is all in the same story. This is the story about Cheryl Tweedy when she was first in Girls Aloud, smacking a Nigerian toilet attendant in the face. There she is. Look at it. Straight out like that. In a nightclub attack. She went on, after this story, to be charged with racially aggravated assault and to go to court. Now, there was a slight issue with the court case, which you may or may not be aware of, was that Cheryl Tweedy was found not guilty of racially aggravated assault, despite the fact that she called her a fucking black bitch, as you can see. She also called her a jigaboo, which didn't appear in the copy, but she definitely did it. The reason for this is because Sophie spoke to me on a Saturday morning. She spoke to the police a few hours previously, just after the attack had happened in a nightclub in Guildford called The Drink. Sounds very classy. But the police didn't, when they came back to her to check the statement on the Sunday, they had missed out some important facts about what had or hadn't happened. One of those facts was the word black. So it looked as though Sophie had spoken to me about racially aggravated abuse and then spoken to the police about it. As a result, the court case folded. The jury were fairly easily convinced that Sophie had sold her story to the press and that she had changed her story as a result in return for money. There was a point at which a QC was telling me that I would need to go to court and defend myself because I hadn't paid Sophie any money. Sophie wasn't paid any money. She didn't change her story. And she didn't make anything up. But the QC said to me, you have to go and give evidence. And I said, but why? I am someone who has spent many years dealing in the truth and dealing with lawyers for every single thing that I write. Cheryl Tweedy is someone who is in her interest to cover up the truth if she wants to carry on being a pop star. And they said, yes, but you're a journalist. You won't be believed, no matter what you say. So a few years ago, I had a story to tell. I had a story to tell about what it's really like to be a journalist and what it's like to have your heart broken when you hack your ex-husband's voicemail and find out he's shagging a fat bird. She was big. I couldn't have told that story in any way, shape, or form if I put my name on it. I wouldn't be able to carry on doing my job. I wouldn't be able to do a door knock. I wouldn't be able to steal the Prime Minister's dustbins. Not steal, rifle the Prime Minister's dustbins. I would have been on a sticky wicket, so I had to do it anonymously. I started a blog. I wrote my book online for a year. It's for sale around the corner. I think I've mentioned that. And I wrote lots of things that I couldn't do otherwise. I couldn't do in my job. This particular article that I wrote is about super injunctions. There was a massive issue going on before the news world shut down, and we were very interested in privacy, about what we were and were not allowed to know. And everyone wanted to know what Ryan Giggs was up to, and who he was up to it with, and whether or not there was an abortion involved. All of which is private information, all of which is medical information, all of which you have no right to know whatsoever. But everybody was gossiping about it. And the issue was that we wanted to talk about the things that we weren't supposed to talk about, and whether or not we were allowed to talk about them. I couldn't have done that in my job. No reporter, no newspaper would be able to write that. The anonymity meant I got, with my blog, 2 million readers, all of whom weren't really your normal newspaper readers. I managed to think about marketing and advertising and branding and other things that you don't get to do when you're a normal newspaper reporter. And I've also managed to land now a column for the Daily Mirror Online, which is something you normally only manage if you're giving blowjobs to the right people. And I never do that. They're always the wrong people. I also, as a result of Twitter, was able to go onto Twitter and complain about the fact I didn't have a book deal. I got a book deal because I had anonymity, because I had an anonymous account. It's a lot like Lost Lectures here when they say, we're going to have an evening, we're not going to tell you quite where it is, this will be interesting for you. You get more interested in it because they won't tell you everything. People are more interested in my story because I wouldn't tell them my name. The fact that I am now out has happened when the book came out, because when it came out, I had to. I had no option if I was going to do the publicity and so on and so forth. Nothing much has changed in the meantime. It seems to have been done on my terms, which is good. I haven't been trolled. No one's been commenting about the size of my vagina like they do Mary Beard, which is nice. I've got slightly more interest in readers and sales. I did have a PR the other day from the Department of Work and Pensions. I phoned up and said, hello, I'm Susie Boniface from Sunday Mirror. Can I ask you a question about the Universal Credit story? And they said, oh, wow, you've had an amazing week. No comment. Which was a bit shit. I can't do the kind of work I used to do anymore. I can't do death knocks and door knocks and be quite as anonymous as I was. But then I have got enough soap, and I've already been in jail, which is chapter 2. Despite not being anonymous anymore, it was my choice. Anonymity is only useful if you can use it for something. If you're Belle de Jour writing Diary of a Cool Girl with your Joe Klein writing Primary Colours, maybe you want to protect yourself for a bit. It's a nice, safe place to be. I don't have that now. I don't have that safety. I'm still a second-class citizen, as a lot of people are aware or concerned at the moment. I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss it, because it is a nice, safe, comforting thing to know that no one knows who you are, no one's looking at you, and it's certainly not safe to be in a room with 500 naked people staring at you. But that's it. That's Anonymity. That's my book. It's around the side, and I'll be signing it in the interval. Thank you very much.